It's time for a look through the press with Diptyka Laurent, who joins me in the studio. Dipty, great to see you.
Hi, Inka.
So there's lots of focus in the press today on that Swiss passenger who's being treated for Hantavirus in Zurich after having contracted the disease aboard the MV Hondius cruise ship. Tell us more.
Well, there are 8 cases of hantavirus now, including 5 confirmed cases and 1 confirmed death from hantavirus. All of this aboard that cruise ship, which set off on April the 1st from Ushuaia in Argentina to the island of St. Helena. The Wall Street Journal noting that a Swiss man tested positive to the Andes strain of hantavirus, which is the only known strain of this virus that can be transmitted between humans. He's being treated in a Zurich hospital. The problem, though, is that Swiss officials now are rushing to trace his contacts because he fell ill after returning home, but he was allowed to travel freely during his infectious period. The infectious period can be between 2 and 8 weeks, meaning he could have potentially exposed many others to the virus in the meantime. The virus is otherwise commonly contracted by being exposed to contaminated rat droppings. It causes respiratory distress. It has already killed 3 cruise ship passengers. And some reports say that climate change is exacerbating the spread of the virus, particularly in Argentina.
Well, Dipty, this health crisis is very much dominating the Spanish dailies today.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because authorities have said that the cruise ship will now dock in Spain's Tenerife, in the Canary Islands, by this weekend, sometime by this weekend. This is that's why a lot of the Spanish papers are focusing on this. This is ABC, a Spanish daily, which says that hantavirus is now provoking a political crisis for Spain because the Canary Islands leader, Fernanda Clavijo, has opposed the plan for the cruise ship to dock there. Meanwhile, Morocco, the paper says, prevented a medical plane from making a stop over there. It's also on the front page of El País here, focusing on 23 passengers who have already disembarked, who disembarked the cruise ship and then flew, quote, untracked to their own countries without undergoing any sort of quarantine. These passengers coming from all over the world, like the US, Taiwan, and Australia. El País's editors in their editorial pages today, however, they call for calm in this editorial here, saying that in any case, this virus, for the moment at least, is much less transmittable between humans than coronavirus. However, the paper says the world needs to heed the lessons from the pandemic 6 years ago, particularly in relation to those people who've been traveling without quarantine.
Feels very much like deja vu.
A little bit.
Dipty, let's move on to the US. A bit too much like deja vu. In the US, a federal judge has released a suicide note that was allegedly written by Jeffrey Epstein shortly before his death.
Well, in his letter, it's published in the New York Times today. In this letter, this handwritten letter, as you can see, the convicted pedophile allegedly wrote, I quote, "They investigated me for months and found nothing." He then added that it was a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye. Now, Epstein's cellmate allegedly discovered this note in July 2019 after Epstein was found unconscious with a cloth around his neck. He was found unresponsive. He survived that incident, but then he later died in prison some weeks later in 2019, in August 2019. The letter itself here has not been authenticated by the New York Times, but it was released to the public by a U.S. federal judge. Epstein's cellmate says he found it in a graphic novel that was found shortly after Epstein left their shared cell. As we know, his death was ruled a suicide, but that hasn't stopped many conspiracy theories abounding that he may have in reality been murdered.
Well, let's have a bit of fun now. I think we're definitely in need of it. Let's focus on some football because it's jubilation for Paris Saint-Germain fans after the Parisian side qualified for their 2nd Champions League final.
The 2nd Champions League final in a row as well. So as you can imagine, jubilation in the French papers today. This is Le Parisien, who call Paris Saint-Germain heroic on their front page. L'Équipe, a French sports paper, meanwhile, says the match was a total pleasure to watch. And even the Spanish papers have something to say about it. This is Sport, which is a paper from Barcelona focusing on Luis Enrique, the PSG coach, hailing him for taking the side to their second final in a row. PSG, of course, will be facing Arsenal on May 30th in Hungary. Arsenal will be in its first final in 20 years. They'll no doubt have their work cut out for them. And in fact, the Telegraph Inca says has a list of things Arsenal needs to do in order to beat PSG. The paper says at least they can take comfort in some impressive stats. They've only conceded 6 goals in 14 matches during this Champions League, but they will have their work cut out for them.
Certainly will, as they battle it out for the crown. Dipti, thank you so much for that look into the daily papers.